Hello everybody and welcome to the Black Pine Cooktop. My name is Paul and today we are celebrating this amazing heat wave we have going on here in Arizona by making soup. That is Vietnamese pho. And pho is an incredible beef and noodle soup from Vietnam that has the most amazing restaurant names that you've ever seen in your entire life. And I learned how to make this because back home in California, these restaurants were everywhere. They're all over the place. But here in Tucson, it's a completely different story. These restaurants are really hard to find out here. And they're usually crowded, overpriced, and quite honestly, they're not up to par with what was in California. So I took it upon myself to learn how to make this dish. And as I found out, it was actually surprisingly easy to make. It's cheap, it's fun, and it's just such a good product at the end, and it's really fresh and tastes amazing. So with that, let's learn how to make this dish. But first, we have to go through the ingredients and tools that we need for this dish. And with that, we are ready to go. If you enjoy this video, please do not hesitate to press like and subscribe. I like making these videos a lot, but they take a bit to make, and honestly, they're a lot of fun, and I'll still keep doing them as much as I possibly can. So with that, let's get to it. Let's learn how to cook pho. And so we're gonna make pho. And the first thing to do that is we're going to toast our spices. And these spice packs are really cool because they contain everything that you need. Your cardamom, your cinnamon, your licorice, your star anise, your cloves, and your fennel. All in one easy package. And you just have to toast them in a pan. I greased this pan with Pam and just toasted the spices. And I added a little bit of coriander to this spice pack because I didn't think it had enough, or any, as I recall. But yeah. So you just stir around all the spices, and you can see everything in there. The star anise, the actual tree bark for the licorice and the cinnamon, the cardamom, and everything. It looks so good, and boy, it smells amazing once you stir everything around. It's just amazing. And so once everything is toasted to your satisfaction, you set up an Instant Pot. And this meal is actually quite easy with an Instant Pot because it's just a simmer dish. It makes everything a lot quicker and it cooks it really well. And so that's why I use it. Instead of spending, 8 hours to make this pho, I made this in about 2.5 hours using this Instant Pot. And so we're just going to add our spices to the Instant Pot at the bottom there. Some people would use a mesh bag or something like that, but I prefer to just leave them in. And next we're going to add some flavoring elements here. I used a Fuji Apple, some charred garlic, some charred onion, and some charred ginger. And I charred these on a gas stovetop. You can use a barbecue, or you can use whatever you want. You can use a blowtorch. If you have an acetylene torch, you can use that. That would be pretty awesome, honestly. I wish I had an acetylene torch. I could weld everything. And next we're going to add a key element, which is the beef bones. You can get beef bones in your market fairly cheap. I think I got 5 pounds for $5 at my local Asian market. And next, we're going to add some sort of beef. I use chuck roast in this case. This will serve as my rare beef. Or sorry, my well-done beef, not rare beef. That's the wrong one. So I just added that at the top there. And next, with all these ingredients, we're going to add water. And we're going to fill up water to the 2/3 line, as I just pointed out there. Just plain old water. Good old Tucson tap water. Which is probably not the greatest, honestly, because our water is so hard out here. But you know what? It's water. It's going to cook out anyways. And just go ahead and seal up your Instant Pot. And then set it up to do a 1 hour and 15 minutes to 1 hour 30 minutes Instant Pot cook. And so when that's all done, you depressurize it and let it sit for a little while. I actually let it sit for about 40 minutes in natural release and then release the pressure to let everything simmer around. So when we open that up, it looks amazing, but you have all this stuff floating around, and it smells so good. So with that, we have to strain and remove everything and get that broth out. So how do we do that? Well, my methodology is I set up a gravy separator like here with a piece of cheesecloth on the top. Usually these spice packs include this cheesecloth, so it's very convenient. You remove the beef and set it aside, just as I did there. I actually put it in the pan I intended to use the broth in, but I ended up later removing it because that was a bad idea, as you will see in a second here. Sorry about the fogging of the camera. It was directly above and I didn't set up my fan correctly, but whatever. You still get the point. And so we're going to set this up just like this, and we're going to start straining. Now, a gravy separator is really cool because the pho will have a layer of oil on the top that you have to get rid of. You can let it sit and manually take a spoon to this and remove all this fat, or you can use a gravy separator as I have here. Gravy separators are really cool, and I use it in a lot of stuff, especially if you make a lot of broths like I do. It makes things really easy, and you don't have to really sit there tediously straining away the oils. It just kind of separates out by design. And so we're going to separate the broth into a separate pan as I have here. And once you have all this oil isolated out, we're going to actually put this oil in a separate dish. And as you can see, I removed the chuck roast as I alluded to earlier here. And always put the oil in like a separate like pasta dish or something like that. I use a pasta jar. It works great. So we're just going to continue the separation process. We're going to strain our pho, separate out all the oils, and then put it in the pan. And this is how we extract all this broth. This beautiful, beautiful broth. It's delicious. So let's clean everything up and set up our broth for seasoning. And we're going to set this up to boil. We're going to boil it for a little while. And then we're going to add some pepper and some salt. That's all you really need to season this. You can add fish sauce as well if you so choose, but I don't really like fish sauce. So of course, as I always preach, taste your food. It's so essential to taste your food. So as you can see, it's starting to boil. It's getting there. And then I brought out some ground pepper. I use a peppercorn medley because it's a little bit more mild usually. And then always use kosher salt. Kosher salt is great for seasoning things like this. And if you don't use freshly ground black pepper, I literally don't trust you, man. That's not so cool. Just use ground black pepper. It'll improve the quality of your dishes so much. So much. So with that, we're just going to keep iterating the taste. We're going to add our seasoning, taste it, add our seasoning, taste it, over and over and over again until we get to something that's fairly acceptable. We don't have to make it perfect because that's a cool thing about pho is that it's like kind of like choose your own story food. You add a lot of things when you assemble it, and when it gets to your table, traditionally, they actually give you a bunch of stuff to season your pho to your liking. And so I left it fairly mild as a result. And so next, what we have to do is bring out our dish. This is just a soup dish. You can get this in any Asian grocer for fairly cheap. And we're going to get our Bahn Pho, which is the Vietnamese rice noodles. You can get these at like the refrigerator section of any Asian market. You can get the pre-made ones, but I'm lazy and I just did these. And so you just make a base layer of the noodles on the bottom there. You want to have a good amount of noodles, and I just use them straight out of the package because I found if they're blanched as you do with the package instructions, they're not so good. So we're going to add onion, some chives, and some cilantro. And these are all fresh. I cut the onion very, very thin and soak them in water afterwards. And so you just add that, and then you add your beef of choice. You can use rare beef. You can add cooked beef, as I chose here. So I just do that. Just a good amount of that, maybe 4 to 5 slices. And then we're just going to pour broth right on the top. And the broth will soften the noodles and bring everything else to the top. And it'll taste super fresh with all these fresh veggies in it. It'll be so good. And you can kind of see that the broth is doing its work on the noodles because it's kind of softening them up. It's losing a little bit of its structure. And that's what we want. Now look at that. It looks almost like completed pho. They would actually deliver it to your table at a pho restaurant in this current state, just as it is. Just look at that. That color is just awesome. It's got that nice amber hue to it. It just looks great. It smells amazing, and it's got all that fresh stuff in it. It's exactly the way you'd want it. And so now what I'm going to do is add all the accoutrements to that. There's all this stuff that follows that they bring to your table as well. And I have here some lime, some jalapeno, and some Thai basil. And most oftentimes there's a spot here where some sprouts would go, but I actually am not a big fan of sprouts, so I kind of omitted those. Hope everybody's okay with that. So you squeeze in a lime, and then you add some jalapeno slices, and then you add some Thai basil. And don't skimp out and use regular basil and mint. It's not the same. I've tried it before. It's not the same. Use Thai basil. And then I add some Sriracha and some Sambal Oelek. Some people also like adding Hoisin Sauce, but I find Hoisin Sauce a little too sweet, so I don't add Hoisin to my pho. And then, of course, I'm going to add a little bit of regular soy sauce. Just a dribble there. And then stir it around. And that, my friends, is a perfect, for me, bowl of pho. You might make this in a different way, because that's the beauty of pho. It's choose your own story food. It's fantastic. And it's great on a nice cold day, which unfortunately it is not right now here in Arizona. It's like 120 degrees outside. But you know what? Look at that. It's so beautiful, and it's ready to go. I was so proud of how this turned out. And for a white dude in Arizona, man, I don't think I did too bad. So with that, that's our pho. It's ready to go. It's ready to eat. And it is so, so delicious. So thank you for watching, everybody. Hopefully this will get you going on some awesome pho. Take care and have an excellent, excellent day.